going to continue reading David Walliams' The Ice Monster. So in yesterday's chapter, the ice monster had just come back to life. So let's see what happens next with our intrepid scientists. A cage, exclaimed the girl. You can't put Willie in a cage. The mammoth must have picked up on the conflict between the two humans and hid behind Elsie. Hid as much as a mammoth can actually hide behind a little girl, which is not very much. Yes, a cage. It's the safest place for a dangerous creature like this, he replied. And with that he wheeled himself over to a spot near the main entrance of the hall and pulled a lever. A trapdoor opened and a huge metal cage rose up out of the floor. Clunk, clank, clink. The noise echoed around the hall, causing the mammoth to move further away into the darkness. With a huge thud, the trapdoor closed. Look, said the professor proudly. I have food and water for the beast in there. He indicated two troughs on the side of the cage. It's barely bigger than she is, protested the girl. It'll be safe in there, trust me. Elsie was glowing with fury. I don't trust you, not one little bit. This was not part of the plan. Did you really believe that I would set this 10,000-year-old creature free to roam the streets of London? But For once, Elsie was lost for words. Dotty stood by her side. All this girl wanted to do was set Willie free, she exclaimed. The monster is free, began the professor. Free from the ice, and free from the grave of history. Free to live out the rest of its days in this cage. But it won't be free to see her. Oh no, I will be opening my own prehistoric zoo. The only one in existence. I'll be able to charge a fortune. £100 a view. People will come from around the world to see the monster. You're the monster, seethed Elsie. I would never have done this if all I'd known was this was your plan. I assumed as much, child, which is why I thought I would keep this part of the plan a secret until you outlived your usefulness. Thank you, and good night. You may go. You can't do this to us, yelled the girl. I just have, was the reply, and the professor rolled himself across the hall to the cage and pulled on a handful of grass. He shook it in his hand. Come on, Professor Osbert, Bertram, Cuthbert, Farnaby, Beverly, Smith, Mammoth, dinner time. The mammoth did not budge, and the professor's face soured. From the leather pouch on his wheelchair, he produced a pistol. Maybe this will persuade it, he said, pointing it at the mammoth. Elsie stood right in front of Willie. You have to kill me first, she said. Oh, and me, Dotty said, taking up a slightly safer position behind the girl. Why would you bring this beautiful creature back to life only to murder her? Demanded Elsie. The gun fires darts, not bullets, replied the professor. They're tipped with a powerful sleeping drug that can knock an elephant out in seconds. And what about a person? Asked Elsie, feeling more than a little frightened. The professor smirked to himself. It would be to put a human to sleep forever. So you're going to kill us so we're dead? That doesn't really make sense, but in short, yes, he replied, now pointing the pistol straight at her. You evil, evil man, said the girl. Thank you, he replied. If you have to kill me, so be it, says Elsie. Willie cannot be kept in a cage for the rest of her life. You can't stop me, child. But maybe I can, said Dotty, and the lady reached beside her for what was left of the hot air balloon's basket, and with all her might she shoved it across the floor of the main hall towards the professor. Whiz! He quickly spun his wheelchair out of the way, and the bucket smashed against the wall. Doof! You have to do better than that, he purred. Much better. Elsie picked up one of the diplodocus bones that the mammoth had helpfully rearranged across the floor. How about this? She said, wielding it at his direction. Goodbye forever, urchin, he said, pointing the gun at her chest, and the professor pulled the trigger. Thinking fast, Elsie whisked up the bone to defend herself, and the dart stuck into it. Twang! Ha ha, said the girl. Don't you worry, child. I have plenty more darts. Plenty more. And immediately he began fumbling in his pouch for another. And this brought precious time for the pair. Elsie picked up one side of the balloon. Quick! She shouted to Dotty. The lady followed suit, and they ran towards the professor and threw it over him like a large sheet. Whoosh! Get this thing off me! He yelled from underneath the 1,000 silk handkerchiefs and one pair of ladies' bloomers. Now bash him over the head with the dino bone, shouted Dotty. Elsie had never bashed anyone over the head before, and certainly not with a dino bone. But there was a first time for everything. The girl rushed over and then stood beside him, the flailing figure, unsure what to do next. Whack him, ordered Dotty. Elsie did what she was told. Doink! Ow! Yelped the professor. Not hard enough, complained the lady. Yes, it was, came a muffled voice from under the balloon. Harder! And another whack. Doink! Ow! Harder still, said Dotty. No, pleaded the professor. Third time lucky, remembered Elsie. With all her might, she whacked the man over the head with a dinosaur bone. Doink! This time the professor did not cry out, but instead slumped in his wheelchair. Slump. That might have been a bit too hard, remarked Dotty. Elsie looked at the massive hole in the stained glass window that Dotty had crashed through. The snowstorm had passed, and the night was slowly becoming day. We need to get Wooly out of here, said Elsie, and fast. And they looked around, but the mammoth had gone. Oh no, said Dotty. We've only gone and lost her. You might think that a missing mammoth would be too big to lose, but that was exactly what Elsie and Dotty had done. Wooly, called out the girl. I'm not sure she's going to come running like a dog, said the lady. She can't have gone far. Elsie looked at the floor of the museum for any mammoth footprints. There was a trail of them that went all the way up the stairs. She's gone upstairs, said the girl. Oh no, said Dotty. I cleaned the upper floors last night. Why would have she gone up there? The lady thought for a moment. Maybe she wanted to look at the butterfly collections. Elsie shook her head. Come on, let's go upstairs and look. Apart from the sound of wind swirling from the broken windows, the museum was eerily silent. The pair followed the footprints all the way to the top floor, where they came out to a stop in the library. I didn't know mammoths could read, remarked Dotty. Elsie shook her head in disbelief. Where to next? Well, this is the top floor of the museum. She can't have got all the way up to... But before Dotty could say it, the roof, there was a deafening sound from above. Crash! And the pair looked at each other. No words were needed. Boom! Debris started falling from the ceiling. How do we get onto the roof from here? Asked the girl. There is only one way. Follow me. And they scrambled up a flight of steps. Ahead of them, they could see a mammoth-sized hole in the wall. Oh, more mess, muttered Dotty. And when they reached the hole, they saw the most startling sight. The mammoth was standing on the roof, looking across London's skyline as dawn was breaking. It would have been a most amazing and magnificent scene to paint, but sadly there wasn't time just now. Wooly! Cried the girl as she stepped out on the roof. What are you doing up here? The animal chose to do the same selective hearing trick that Elsie that the girl did on grown-ups, and she was staring forward. What is she looking at? Asked Dotty. Elsie followed the creature's gaze. The Royal Albert Hall, Hyde Park, Lord's Cricket Ground. Do mammoths like cricket? Asked Dotty. I don't imagine so. No, too old to hold a bat with a trunk, she mused. What's beyond Lord's? Asked Elsie. She hadn't ventured too far out of London. Hampstead Heath, replied Dotty. Beyond that, Highgate Hill. Beyond that, I dunno, never did history at school. Geography, that neither. Elsie stood beside Woolly and patted her side gently. What are you looking at, my friend? She whispered to the animal, but the mammoth just kept looking straight ahead. She lifted her trunk to the sky and let out a mournful "Hoo." The girl wrapped her arms around the animal to give her a hug, and the mammoth leaned in towards Elsie and wrapped her trunk around her. Not too close to the edge, please, Woolly, she said, guiding the mammoth back. Dotty took a step forward. It was an awfully long way down, said the lady. There's the robber, came the shout from the ground. Elsie looked down over the edge of the roof, and there was a whole squad of police looking up at them. Bang! Get down from there, came a shout. Elsie knew that voice. It was the head of the police, the Commissioner Barker. We've had reports of a large lady in a hot air balloon crashing through the window of the museum. It wasn't me, called Dotty. Must have been another large lady flying a hot air balloon. Pull the other one. It's got bells on it, came the shout from below. Elsie was shaking. Dotty, if they catch us, they'll lock us up, and goodness knows what they'll do to Woolly. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh dear. Please stop saying oh dear over and over again. We need to find a way out of here, or we're done for. Oh dear. The poor lady couldn't help it. Oh dear, I didn't mean to say oh dear, oh dear. You have 10 seconds to give yourselves up, or we'll be forced to open fire, barked Barker. And then there was the sound of rifles being cocked. Click, click, click. Have you ever ridden a horse? Asked Elsie. No. A donkey? No. 10? Ever sat on a carousel at the fair? Oh, no. Me neither. But how hard can it be? 9. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? 8. What am I thinking? Replied the girl. 7. That you're going to ride on my back. 6. I'm not thinking that, said Elsie. 5. Oh, dear. 4. I think we're going to have to ride this mammoth out of here. 3. Oh, dear. 2. Yeah, I know, oh, dear, but right now we don't have much choice. 1. Yes, agreed Dotty. And the pair grabbed a hold of a tusk each, and with all their might, they forced the mammoth backwards away from the edge of the roof. Fire at will, came the bellow from below. Gunshots crackled in the dawn sky. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, 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 bang. Whoo! The mammoth started wailing, and being a prehistoric creature, she had never heard gunfire before, and she was flailing around in fear. Ah! Cried Dotty. Hold on, yelled Elsie, and the pair gripped on to the tusks as tightly as they could. Don't let go, shouted the girl. If they did, they would be hurled from the roof and become human jam on the ground below. Bang! Bang, 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 bang! The mammoth retreated through the hole in the wall she had created, and now was inside the museum, dragging her 2 new friends with her. Safely inside, Elsie let go of the trunk and fell to the floor. Doof! Meanwhile, Dotty was being thrown around like a rag doll. Help! She shrieked. Let go! What? I said let go! And finally Dotty did and fell face down. Boof! Oh, this floor needs a very good polish, she remarked. There isn't time for that, said the girl. We need to bang, 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 bang. Reload, ordered Barker. The gunfire ended for a moment, and the mammoth stopped flailing around. The girl patted the animal and stroked the fur on her trunk, which helped calm her down. Woolly, I will never let anything bad happen to you, I promise, she whispered. But you're going to have to trust me right now, all right? I know you're not going to like it at first, but that's the only way out of here. Now, Dotty, give me a leg up. Are you sure that this is a good idea? No, but it's our only idea. Elsie put a hand on the lady's shoulder. Dotty cupped her own hands and the girl used them as a step to climb on the animal's back. Good mammoth, said Elsie, and the girl gripped the animal's flanks with her legs, and she used 2 handfuls of fur as reins. And to her surprise, the mammoth didn't even buck or let out a sound. In fact, she immediately seemed comfortable with the new arrangement. Elsie reached out her hand to help Dotty up. Come on, ordered the girl. The lady was getting on and struggled to help herself up. Once she had, Dotty couldn't swing her leg over the animal. Like Elsie, instead she lay face down on Willie's back, her head buried in the animal's fur, and it looked rather undignified. "Are you comfortable?" asked Elsie. "Of course not," replied Dotty, "but I think we need to get a move on." "If you're sure." The girl had seen the great and good ride their horses through the parks of London, which had given her some idea of how it might be done. So she dug her heels into the animal's side and tugged on her fur and said, "Giddy up." Unfortunately, the mammoth didn't move an inch. "Oh dear," muttered Dotty unhelpfully. "Dotty," asked the girl. "Yes, child." "Would you mind giving our prehistoric friend a little pat on the bottom? If you're sure, as gently as you can, to see if we can make her move. Understood?" The lady did as she was asked, and she raised her hand a touch and brought it down on the animal's rear end. Slap! Whew! Instead of a nice gentle trot, the mammoth went straight into a gallop. "Woohoo!" cried Elsie as they charged down the stairs.